Hey guys, it's me, author SC Vincent, and I'm here to do kind of a quarter two review. I'm a little tired, um, but just gonna kind of go over what I've been up to because I haven't really been uploading a lot of videos. YouTube's not kind of my strong suit. I kind of, mostly tweet and write and work. So it's gonna kind of share what I've been up to and what I'm gonna do in the future from now on. Um, because I have a lot of writing plans. So first, we're gonna just go over a little bit what happened in the last 3 months. So my book from last year, my new book last year, the Sakura Element, a sci-fi romance book, kind of a dystopian sci-fi romance book. Um, got a review. It was really great. It was a 5-star review. It's like the best review I've ever read. Um, so let's take a look at it real quick. So this is the Amazon page. 5-star. You just go to Amazon, you type in the Sakura Element. It's been really hard to kind of pitch this book to people. Um, I think the way I described it, maybe was kind of not something people would want because I described it as a young adult book, which it's the person that reviewed it kind of said that it's not really young adult. It's more actually intellectual, and everything. But and I don't know about the. Some interesting critiques have come up from the book, and it's been hard to get people to kind of read it, like I said. But this review is really amazing. I loved it. It really made it kind of feel worth it. Um, Worth all the effort I put into writing it. And I'll post the link to this person's website so they can kind of get some of that coverage as well. I would say that if you're interested in at all in the book, or maybe not, but if you definitely read their review, maybe that'll help convince you whether you want to read it or not. But yeah, it's definitely one of the good things that I'm happy with. I know I'm very tired. Sorry, I kind of sound like I'm rambling, um, but please bear with me. So the next thing, I published about 2 things um, in this quarter. I was published in Hellbound Books anthology of Splatterpunk Volume 2. Um, so it was a short story in this anthology, right there, and it was called The Dark Demise of Dean Dunn. Very alliterative. It was on purpose. It's kind of a dark comedy, but also a little bit of serious kind of story in there. It starts off with this kind of serial killer, necrophiliac guy, and then it switches POVs to really the main character, this young woman who has a camera. Who every time she takes a picture, she gets to take a picture of someone's soul. She takes it, but when she does it, it hurts her too, and she's being tricked by a cult to use it, unknowingly that every picture she takes, it's killing her slowly. Um, so there's a whole thing there. I would say that um, it's an interesting story. It's a little different than the rest of the stories in the book. I really, I was surprised that I got published in a splatterpunk anthology because I didn't think the story was splatterpunk. And you might hear my dogs in the background. Because when I started reading the rest of these stories in here, I'm like, so that's splatterpunk. That's pretty gruesome stuff. The story isn't like that. My story isn't like that at all. It has blood and guts in it. Some um, some pretty extreme stuff, yeah. Um, but the anthology is reviewed well. Let's take a look. So it just came out. It literally came out on April 1st. Um, maybe that was some sort of joke, gruesome joke. But yeah, it's got 4-star reviews from 7 people, 7 ratings, and there I am. It's all the reviews. Pretty decent, good reviews. And I think this is another kind of YouTuber. I don't know much about her, but I think she does a lot of Digimon stuff. But I would say, you know, if you want to check out my story here, definitely check out this book. You know, eventually one day, I think one day if I have enough short stories published, and you know, after a certain amount of time, you know, the rights to your stories for most of these publications kind of reverts back to you. And I think when that happens, several years from now, I'll probably release a novella or a novelette of all my short stories once I have all the rights back. But it's interesting that I've written 4 novels, 2 short stories, and I'm the only ones that get published by like publishers, like in a traditional sense, are the short stories. So maybe I'm more of a short story writer. Maybe that's kind of where I exceed at, which maybe that's the case. But anyways, moving on. So the last thing I published in this quarter was a novella called Blessings of the Damned. This was kind of like my one of my favorite books that I've written. So it's a priest. It takes place in the late 18. It was like 1880, 1890 or whatever, and a priest is sent to the American West during the right before the Civil War starts, and he has to go all the way and defeat the vampire army that's trying to invade America. And that's kind of like the short of it. But he gets possessed by the ghost of his partner's wife, and she's seeking revenge. She falsely believes he killed her husband. It's all false pretenses and everything. So it's a story. In a way, it's a religious story, but it's also like has a ton of action. You know, it's about facing evil and, you know, good versus evil and all that, and all that, you know, all that wonderful stuff. It was the first time I wrote in first person. I usually write in third person, but you know, writing the first person kind of made me really have that urgency and action. So that's why, like, almost every chapter, there's like a quick pace and there's like action constantly. So I really like the cohesive, concise nature that the first person voice kind of brought me with this story. And I'm like, well, if I can write like this, I can write a series with this character. And that's what Blessings of the Damned is that it's the first book in a series. And I think it'll be about 6 books, 6 novellas, so it's not like a huge amount. It's something I can definitely commit to. And I already have like the next book in the plotting stages. I already know kind of what I'm gonna do with it, and kind of like what I'm gonna go with most of the story at large. And it also has a review as well, and it's probably gonna get another review this month. So yeah, definitely check that out. A website. Let me see if I can find it. That's the back end of YouTube. Let me see if I can find the review here. So it got he gave it 4 stars on Amazon, which is great. But yeah, I was really inspired by a lot of stuff from stuff when I was a kid. When I was writing it, it was like so when I was a child, I would we went out west and literally like traveled to a lot of the key places that I wrote about in the story, and I put a lot of supernatural stuff in it because I always loved horror stories. Um, so yeah, it doesn't look like my computer is gonna act fast enough for me to show you what I want to show you. So anyways, we're gonna go back here. So you can kind of read the review, the quick review. If you his channel is I think Novel Insights, but he liked the story, and I think another YouTuber is going to do a review as well this month, and we'll see how that goes. He seems to be excited about it, and I'm excited to hear the feedback. Um, so yeah, if you're interested in this book, some quickly paced, action, vampires, werewolves, priests, exorcisms, possessions, this is your book. And uh, also, so that's pretty much what I've done for the quarter. I'll also be on a podcast coming up in I think in the next week or two. So pay attention to my social media, and I'll be retweeting that when it's live. I'll be talking about the Sakura Element because when I recorded it, that was before Blessings of the Damned I even had a publication date for it. So at the time, my latest book was the Sakura Element and not this guy, Blessings of the Damned, which I don't know if I showed it, but it's really a very, like I said, novella. It's a thin book. So yeah, so there's probably going to be a review of Blessings of the Damned this month on YouTube, and a podcast about the Sakura Element. I'm trying to get out there a little bit more. Kind of trying to get, send out my books to get people, if they're interested. If anyone out there is interested in doing a review of my books and wants an advanced review, or just like a review copy for YouTube, just DM me just follow me on X and DM me. And if I think you're legitimate, if I see you have like an actual channel, I'll send you a free copy for review. Yeah, so in the future, so what's coming up in the future, right? So Blessings of the Damned is the first in its book series. However, there's another book I'm working on. So Blessings of the Damned 2, and it's not going to be called Blessings of the Damned 2. It'll have some other title. I have another book I've been sitting on. I've been working on it since 2022, so it's 2025 now. And it is kind of like one of those dream books, like a book I need to get out before I can move on to something else. And right now I'm on the first edit, so first round of edits. So it's going through a lot of changes at the moment, and it's a full-fledged novel. It's a science fantasy. Things take place in space. There's magic. There's elves. There's aliens. Right now, I'm just calling it Project Midas, just because it's the project I'm working on. But it takes a lot of inspiration from the character Midas, the Greek character, the story of Midas. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. Like I said, it's a novel, so it's gonna take some time, and then after that, I'll have it published, and I'll move on to Blessings of the Damned 2, and I'll just do Blessings of the Damned 3, 4. I'll just focus on that before I move on to anything else. So that's where I'm at, that's where I've been, and that's where I'm going. So if you would like to follow me, just you can follow this channel. You can follow me on X, Twitter, or you can just follow me on Amazon, and whenever I release a book, you'll get an email. And it seems like whenever I release something every year, so that's kind of my goal, is to release something every year. Um, Anyways, I will see you guys maybe in a couple months, maybe next week. I don't know. Uh, but please check out the links in the description to my books, and thank you very much.